Shalom. Um, so this is the Bible study, but I got some what I think is rather exciting news, which I was going to share with you guys. As where did it go? I had it right in front of me. There it is. Okay. So I don't even remember what exactly it was, but a couple of weeks ago, somebody tagged a rabbi I had never heard of on um, on Twitter, and I go take a look at his Twitter handle, and it's interesting. Like wondering who is this person, and then I notice I like who's following him, and um, so his name is Rabbi Schneur Burton. Uh, he's not Chabad, even though his name is Schneur. Schneur is a name used by people who aren't Chabad as well. Although, I mean, I'm guessing he at some point came from a Hasidic family. Although not everybody named Schneur comes from a Hasidic family. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a very common name in Chabad, though. So Rabbi Burton. So I look at his. I look at his Twitter and, or I should say X, and their rabbi Mathieu Pajot is following him, along with like a bunch of respectable rabbis and stuff like. So he's firmly in from Twitter, but Mathieu Pajot is following him, and so I decide to Google him, and he is and his it's LinkedIn. He has a website, but unfortunately, his website doesn't have the whatchamacallits on it. His doesn't have his the sheets don't show up anymore from his classes, and I found his YouTube channel and interesting YouTube channel, and he's a senior editor at ArtScroll, which really surprised me because it's like senior editor at ArtScroll, and like I'm wondering what he's an editor, like what's he's editing at ArtScroll, because in case you didn't know, becoming a senior editor at ArtScroll for many rabbis, if not a majority of rabbis, is like a dream job. It really is. ArtScroll puts out really good stuff, and it's widely respected among pretty much everybody. And so it's like the premier publishing house within Orthodox Judaism. There's other things like the other two publishers, Kahat, which does Chabad stuff, and Feldheim. And then I find a video of him discussing his work at ArtScroll, and I watch this, and I'm like, wow, I never suspected a rabbi who. So he first started working at ArtScroll on the Kitvei Haran. The Ran, Rabbeinu Nissim, he's just known as the Ran, right? Rabbi Nun, and frankly, I would not be surprised. I hope I have his first name right, because we just call him the Ran, right? We don't necessarily call him Rabbeinu Nisim even, because he's just the Ran, right? Yeah, Rabbeinu Nisim of Gorona. So he's one of, like, he doesn't have a Greek name like Maimonides and Nachmanides. So, but after, like, Rashi and I mean, there's a very small number of what are called Rishonim, which they're considered like the basic Rishonim, and the Ran is one of the basic Rishonim, and yeah, Rabbeinu Nisim Garondi. So, like, Rabbi Burton was working on translations of Kitvei Haran. It's like, oh wow, and then I see that's how he started. He's been at Art Scroll for 6 years. He's doing Kitvei HaRambam, right? Of Maimonides. Like, to be asked to edit, he's not the author of the New Art Scroll Kitvei HaRambam, but he's the editor, right? And it's like, wow. And he has a YouTube channel. You guys can find his YouTube channel. I guess I could find his YouTube channel for you. And I start binging his stuff. He has a Substack. I haven't read so much as Substack. He has a few books out. And for somebody of like his here's his YouTube, like yeah, so Kalonymus is explaining, like, the greatness of the Ran. He's on the page in Masechet Nedarim. So on the tractate Nedarim, which is one of the tractates of the Talmud, he's on the page. Okay, meaning he's printed along with the Talmud, right? And so, like, I'm sure there are, like, getting a job, being an editor on, like, even kids' books at Art Scroll is very, very difficult, right? But, like, we're talking real hardcore stuff. And Kitvei HaRambam, I mean, that's the 13 principles of faith. So I contacted him, and well, first of all, I mean, I saw certain things on his YouTube. I mean, when I saw this, I was like, "Is this a quote? All the world's sorrows are due to Paulus not knowing the sod of the Shivim Lashonot." And I asked him if it's a quote. He said, "No, it's my theory." And I said, that's quite a statement. I would love to hear more. And then Yamach Shamam, because he put a Substack quote in it, YouTube, Twitter hid this from me. So I just saw this right now when I looked up the thing. I didn't know that he had written these Substacks. I haven't read all his Substacks. He has books. I mean, I'm guessing Chezi is going to love. He wrote a book, Haaretz Asher Areka, in which he goes into, like, a diun of Yishuv Haaretz and stuff. And I listened to his shiurim, and, like, he actually, I mean, he has very interesting things to say about Rav Yoel. I mean, obviously, I follow the Rebbe's Shita in all things, and I don't even know how it jives his Shita, but like he this is a rabbi who like can have a Shita on and he paskins in certain ways um about the mitzvah of Yishuv Haaretz and exactly what it is, what it's not, whether it's applicable, right? So like rabbis like this of this caliber are not like they rarely have YouTube channels. Most of like if they do have they record their teachings, it's usually not put on YouTube, but if it is put on YouTube, it's usually not put on YouTube by themselves. He's actually rather active on Twitter. So like yeah, follow him, like subscribe to his channel, listen to his stuff. But and I binged some of his stuff. I haven't obviously done that much. I'm definitely gonna read this 3-part essay he has on Shivim Lashonot, because I don't exactly know what he means by Sod Shivim Lashonot, and the idea that all the world's sorrows are due to Paul of Tarsus, that's who he's referring to, not knowing the Sod of the Shivim Lashonot, like that's already something. Oh, so you know Rabbi Burton also. Yeah, so he knows Judeo-Arabic, and that's why he's involved in the Don says English, please. All the world's problems are due to Paul not knowing the secret of the 70 languages. I'm not sure that translated it. I don't know what the rabbi means by the sod of the 70 languages. I don't know what he means. I really don't. And so I'm going to read his Substack, but I have been communicating with him, and we are trying. Hopefully we can find some time for Rabbi Burton to. Oh, you bought the book, Haaretz Asher Areka? Yeah, Gil Student did a review of it. Oh yeah, I mean, I would, yeah, having him on, like, yeah, as soon as Rabbi Burton has time, I would, and he asked me what I would want him to talk about, and I said it would be presumptuous of me to pick a topic for a rabbi like Rabbi Burton to speak on. Obviously, anything he would like to speak on, who am I to say? But I did ask him, because he is so studied in specifically Maimonides. I mean, he's one of the foremost experts on Maimonides and the 13 principles of faith specifically, right? Like you don't get to become the editor of Kitvei HaRambam on at ArtScroll without being like basically. I mean, how would I describe this? So the Moreh Nevuchim is, apparently he has an incredible passion for the Moreh Nevuchim, which obviously I mean, I don't even feel qualified to have the discussion with him. Probably like it would be better if Yosef or Chazi spoke to him. But I mean, obviously, whatever time Rabbi Burton can give us, I'm going to. Okay. So there's the. I mean, look, I have to say, I like. This is like to learn all of his Torah is beyond me, right? That's not if that was the type of thing, like I was like, you know, I would actually be a Ben Torah, but like to have him come on the channel. And I asked him the question that we asked Rabbi Breitowitz, right? So I'll read specifically, and I got his permission to quote him. Let me just make sure I don't have his. I'm not going to make a mistake and put any of his direct messages on the thing. But I asked him, so let me specifically say, okay, the question we asked Rabbi Breitowitz was whether a Yid, a Jew, who believes that Avraham Avinu, Abraham, was not an actual person, but simply an allegory like the opinion brought in the Talmud about Eov, Job, would be considered a kofar, a heretic, according to the Rambam, Maimonides. I thought that while clearly he would be mistaken, that would not be against the 13 essentials of Jewish faith, the 13 Ikarim, in such a way as to constitute a kofar be'ikar, someone who is denying an essential of the Jewish faith. Rabbi Breitowitz said that in his opinion, I was not mistaken. And Rabbi Burton wrote back, fascinating. I too wouldn't think he's a kofar, a heretic, according to the Rambam. And I asked if I could quote the Rav, and he said yes. So I explained to him what my channel is about, and obviously, if he would like to speak about anything, specifically, I said I would like to ask him about the 13 Ikarim, and hello, Garth, how are you? So it's a possibility that he's going to be on the channel. So if people have questions like or anything for Rabbi Burton, I'll present them to him and see if there are topics that he wants to talk about. I really wonder what I don't think he wants to publicly talk about Paul exactly yet, but whatever he wants to talk about, like I am incredibly excited. He's obviously one of the he's not a prominent rabbi, but he's an actual rabbi, right? So like the thing is, a lot of times on YouTube and stuff, you know, people will hear of like things that a rabbi said that, okay, like in a very real sense, there's a reason why Yosef and Chazi are reluctant to get smicha, right? To get an ordination, because people will think like rabbi, right? And to to explain it to the Gentile audience, like there are rabbis who are kind of like bishops, right? They're not like, there are rabbis who are kind of like deacons. There are rabbis who are kind of like priests, and then there are rabbis who are like bishops. Like they're people who are yeah. Rabbi Mullet. Rabbi Mullet, like he's one of our bishops, but Rabbi Mullet will I'm sure will not in any way be offended when I say, okay, like when Rabbi, if I were to ask a question of like he most of the questions I would ask him, like that are very difficult questions, Rabbi Mullet would say, go ask a posek, or he would go ask a posek himself, right? Rabbi Burton, there would be very few questions, I would think, that he would feel he needs to go ask, right? And Rabbi Mullet says correct. Not sure if you know Rabbi Schneur Burton too. Kalanimus was aware of him, but yeah, I mean, I was very impressed listening. How would you tell the difference between rabbis? So there is to some extent a like different types of ordination, right? So like the chief rabbinate in Israel has various tests, and there's a difference between somebody who's taken all the tests or taken one of the tests, right? So to some extent you could say something like that, but really to achieve the type of the type of status that somebody like Rabbi Burton has, like it comes from esteem from other rabbis, right? Like there are people who are self-publishing. Like he has some self-published books on I mean, even Haaretz Asher Areka, I believe, is self-published. He has some self-published books. I mean, I'm sure they have haskamot. I'm sure they have approbations, but like he has a book of drushim, like just sermons, right? And there's plenty of people who will publish such a thing. Most people would not publish such a thing. And frankly, someone of his stature would not publish such a thing until his own rabbi, who's I'm sure like he learned at Beis Midrash Gavoa. I'm sure he's very closely. I mean, he's probably a student of the very well known names, and I'm sure he wouldn't self-publish any of the stuff that he's published without being actually being what is my brain is not working. I will take a drink of water and maybe that will remind me. Yes, that reminded me. Encouraged by his own rabbi, right, to do something like that. But honestly, like when I watched the Art Scroll video, right, I was like, oh, this isn't just somebody deciding to publish stuff on Twitter and YouTube, right? And the only way you know that is from the respect that other rabbis give him, because I certainly don't know how tall the mountains are, right? Yeah, and look, I obviously he knows a lot more Talmud and basically everything than I do. Like he knows Maimonides backwards and forwards in ways like just speaking to him, just listening to him, I can tell he knows a lot more than I do, right? Like a lot more than I do. But then there's another level, which is the rabbis who know a lot more than I do, right? And Kalonymus, Chezi, Yosef, Rabbi Mollet all know, like it's obvious, they know more than I do about pretty much everything Torah related. But but I mean, all of them would probably, and I'm I'm not saying anything new. Would say like, yeah, Rabbi Burton is on a different level, right? And frankly, most of the rabbis that we would generally say are on a different level would probably say the same. I mean, to be selected by Art Scroll to, and Kalonymus says 100. So to be selected by Art Scroll to edit the translations of the Ran, Rabbeinu Nissim, and Maimonides, right? The Rambam, right? Like you're talking about the fundamentals of faith, right? Like how do I even compare this? It's like uh being an editor of the Journal of the American Medical Association, right? Working like being a senior editor at ArtScroll is, in terms of being a rabbi, similar to being a an editor of the Journal of the American Medical Association. And then, like in terms of specialty, like he's he's a specialist on Maimonides, and the most difficult things in Maimonides, which a lot of people, like everybody learns the Mishnah Torah. Not everybody is considered a an authority on the Guide to the Perplexed and the Perush HaMishnayot and like the Kitvei Rambam, right? And like he actually knows Judeo-Arabic. He reads Judeo-Arabic. He studied Arabic so that like he like in the discussion. Good night, Garth. In the discussion, like that he was having on Art Scroll, he was talking about how reading it in the Judeo-Arabic, there are specifics that people may be misunderstanding from the translations. Although he said that there's a very great thing. Yeah, being able to faithfully translate something into English requires complete command of the subject in the original language. Hence, he's a super expert in Maimonides' work. Yeah. So like having him on and asking him like I would love to hear him speak about whatever he wants to speak about. But I mean it's an incredible honor. So that was kind of my introduction, because obviously like when I get him, if I get him to come on, I doubt very much that I would be what you call it. I'm I'm probably not going to speak too much. Hopefully, maybe I'll ask questions that don't make me sound dumb. Um, but I wouldn't be able to give like a full introduction. So this is probably going to be my introduction to people to that before Rabbi Burton comes on. And if people have questions and stuff, I might do a stream kind of like talking about the questions and stuff. I might do a preparatory stream before Rabbi Burton actually comes on. I'll see. But it's nothing's set in stone. This might all be wishful thinking on my part. But yeah, it's a possibility. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. And then so I was listening to somebody mentioned on Twitter that Father Stephen discussed our Roman 7 thing briefly on Lords of Spirit. So I actually listened to Lords of Spirit. There's a lot of stuff I mean, generally, like, I could do a lot of commentary on stuff that I disagree with Father Stephen about, which people might be, and I think that the religious Jewish dimension. So I considered doing some sort of on commentary on that, but I don't know. But like his view of time and the coming of the Messiah, like yeah, it's very different. Okay, now back to Job. Anybody remember which chapter we were on in Job? I think we were on chapter 6. Hine zot chakarnuha ki hi shema'ena ve'ata da'lach. Yeah, I think we were chapter 6. I mean, if anybody wants to jump on, I would love to have, like, there's a bunch of people watching, but nobody. Yeah, I was actually wondering with I mean, now that Jason isn't on, fewer people jump on. But I was looking at my numbers, and it's not like fewer people are watching. I guess like Andrew doesn't come on as much, and Trey is busy, and people have lives. But let me pin the StreamYard link in case anybody does want to come on. But so Jason is engaged to be married and touring with a band. And so he's got better things to do than Bible study with me, apparently. Thanks a lot, Jason. Yeah. So I don't have a Bible study partner like I used to. Anyway, okay. Is this big enough for you guys to see? Let's use this. Because everybody wants to see Shadow in the Valley of the Shadow of Death. There. There she is. And okay, hopefully that's big enough for people to see. If they want to see. Vaya'an Iyov vayomer. So Job answered and said, Lu shakul yishakel ka'asi. Yeah, and it's in Job, ka'as is written with a sin, which is interesting. It's usually written with a samech, so yeah. V'havati b'moznayim yis'u yachad. Oh, that my vexation, that's how they're translating ka'asi, were thoroughly weighed, and my calamity laid in the balances. together. They took off together. And I mean, calamity, havati, is calamity. I would probably translate havati as my being, but okay. Ki ata mechol yamim yichbad al ken devarai la'u. Wow. Okay. For now it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Ki ata mechol yamim yichbad al ken devarai la'u. Therefore my words are stammering. La'u. Stammering. Okay. Ki chitzei Shaddai imadi, for the arrows of the Almighty are within me. Asher chamatam shota ruchi, the poison of which, chamatam, poison, their heat. My spirit drinks up. Shota ruchi. Be'utei Eloah yarhuni. The terrors of God array themselves against me. Be'utei Eloah yarhuni. I mean, yarhuni, I would have translated as measure me. And be'utei, Jess, how are you, my friend? We can't hear a word you're saying. You must have the wrong microphone selected because there is noise coming. Make sure, no, it's the wrong input is selected. Go into settings and audio and make sure that the microphone is the correct microphone in your browser in StreamYard. It's your StreamYard settings. Still can't hear anything. He will be back, I think. Bi'ute is interesting. Bi'ut. Looking up words. Fright. It shows up in one other place in Psalm 88:17. Verbal form of bi'et, to terrify. Let's see where bi'et. Okay. Nitba'et apparently shows up in places. Aramaic, interesting. Okay. So that's bi'ute. Hayinhak pere. So pere is a wild donkey. Hayinhak pere ale deshe. Does the wild donkey bray when he has grass? Ale deshe im yigash yig'e shor al belilo. Or does the ox low over his fodder? Okay. Hayachel tafel mibli melach. Can that which is unsavory, tafel being unsavory? Well, tafel is, something that's not important. Without salt. Im yesh ta'am brir chalamut. Or is there any taste in the white of an egg? Ta'am Barir Halamut. Barir means that which purity, or that which is taken out of. Halamut is, I guess, a tasteless plant. Yeah, so I guess there are. Oh, Sadia. Apparently, there are people who say that this is referring to the white of the egg, but it may also be. Hello, Jess.
Hello, I'm back.
You are, and we can hear you.
I think my audio interface is like on the fritz.
I have no idea, but Don said if you had just said Job 3 times, Jess would have showed up sooner or later.
Well, I'm working late on this project, and then I see your Bible study showed up, and I'm like, oh, he's still going through Job. I gotta like listen. I'll listen in. I can't like involve myself, but I saw you're going through chapter 6, and I'm like, I gotta say something.
So you like chapter 6, apparently?
Well, it's just Job's first response after Elihu kind of lays down his bit.
Mm-hmm.
And
the language
is so strange.
It is. Like, I was just looking up this word halamut. Like, they translate it as white of an egg, but it may be some sort of like plant that just doesn't taste very good.
Yeah, and I've been through a bunch of this stuff with Yosef, and I don't know if we went through the white. I think we did. It has to do with the plants, and then it ends up, if I remember right, it has something to do with what the wild donkey kind of gnaws at when he's out in the wilderness. Because there's, there, and I don't know. It's like something.
Yeah, that seems like that makes more sense to me than eggs.
It might be some sort of figure of speech, and that it does. I don't know.
The language is all pretty. I mean, it's all pretty strange. I mean, a lot of these words are.
Well, even I wanted to just mention in verse 3 when he says, it's not even like it's just a strange saying, because he says, "Oh, that my vexation were weighed and all my calamity laid in the balances, it would be heavier than the sand of the sea."
Yeah.
Usually when the sand of the sea is mentioned, it's more numerous than the sand of the sea, not heavier. Like, why is he using weight?
Well, and the funny thing about weight, I mean, yichbad, right, also means glory, and like anane kavod, right, are the clouds of glory, right?
Really?
So, yeah. So there's definitely a like double, like this is one of those texts, actually like the beginning of Jonah, I would say, as well, which is just so like that. The beginning of Jonah, when he's drowning in the sea, right? Like, it's so, the imagery is so graphic and reminiscent of other things that it's like, forget translating this. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, I can read one or many translations of this, but if you expect the translations to match up, you're just not paying attention.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of places in Job that feel like this, but this is one of them where I feel like I'm missing like 90% of it just by not knowing the Hebrew. And then there's all this sort of contextual stuff, I think, that's, I don't know, like language context and stuff that just is basically escapes everyone. Like, I haven't read a commentary that kind of is like, oh, here's a good way to do this. Basically, everyone that I've read says, they basically just sort of give their best translation. They're like, this is probably what it means. It's probably a figure of speech.
Okay, I do have to say, I don't know if you've been following along, but with the Malbim, they're so the reason that the person who translated the Malbim, that the translation that we're reading, didn't translate like half of the things that the Malbim says,
Yeah.
is because and I've done it myself when I've been reading through it. Like there are just things where he's just showing you how the text flows and like why it's he's using a and it's just like grammatically I'm not sure. And so the guy who did the translation, I think his name is Pfeffer or something, he just retranslated the text.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's like, as opposed to trying to translate these, he just translated the text according to how the Malbim does it. Yeah, and like when I'm reading,
is that available somewhere?
Yeah, I think I sent it to you.
Maybe.
I thought I sent it to you on Discord. You don't go on Discord that much though.
Well, I'm kind of on it there, but I miss a bunch of stuff because there's too many things.
There's a lot of things.
Was it on your channel?
No, I thought
Did you just send it directly to me?
Yeah, but although now that I'm looking at it, I'm not finding it.
Yeah,
I didn't send it to you?
You sent it to me on. This is what you're going through from Safaria, right?
Right.
Okay,
so but he actually like there was I found the book on Amazon. Yeah, but I didn't send it to you. So
Malbim's Job.
Yeah, so this
would be interesting.
Yeah, by Jeremy I. Pfeffer. Yeah. So he apparently like it's like the translation is his translation.
Yeah, that's cool.
Maybe I didn't send it to you because I was planning on buying it for you. I considered buying it for you.
Yosef bought me a book. Did he tell you?
He did. He may have. Yeah.
Can you see it?
Oh, the Bible Job, the Jerusalem commentary.
It's a thick book, but it's Hebrew English.
Oh, is it Mikrot Gedolot on Job? Is that what he got you?
Let's see. Jerusalem. It says the Saul Kos. I don't know. I can't pronounce the name. Here's the name on it.
The Saad. Oops. Oh no, that's just the family that.
Okay, then this name is on the.
No, but I think that is the Mikrot Gedolot on Job. Yeah, that's a translation of Mikrot Gedolot on Job. So
yeah, so it's got commentary and then it's got notes also. So it's got the the parallel Hebrew and English, then it's got commentary and notes in English. And it's so awesome.
Okay, so what's called the Rabbinic Bible, so the King James version of the Bible was translated from Daniel Bomberg was a Catholic printer in like 1500s or 15th century Italy. I think he was in Italy. Anyway, he definitely like he got permission from the Pope to print books in Hebrew. And so he printed what's referred to as the Rabbinic Bible, which is he got a bunch of rabbis together and he printed the Masoretic text with all of the great commentaries that the rabbis study. Okay. So here I will show you a picture of Mikrot Gedolot. So this is probably the one most people know. Now
Okay.
you see how thick each one of those is. One of the 5 books of Moses.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of commentary in that.
Yeah. Each one of those volumes is one of the 5 books of Moses.
Yeah.
And then there's Mikrot Gedolot on the rest of Tanakh, right? So apparently what he got you is one of the translations, which obviously, I mean, I doubt very much, although I think possibly you might be able to get, no, most of the translations are just of the 5 books of Moses. But I think people have been working on translations because, so here's a page of Mikrot Gedolot, right?
Mhm.
So the large text, that's the Torah itself,
Mhm.
right? And then each one of these blocks you see is a different rabbinic commentary or translation or a super commentary, which is a commentary on, so like the first box on the right is actually a commentary called Siftei Chachamim, which is basically a commentary on Rashi, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like yeah, Bomberg was definitely a Jewish hero. Like I don't know of of a Catholic who had as much like effect on like rabbinic Judaism uh at all. Like Daniel Bomberg, like I should probably tell Gideon about Daniel Bomberg. Um anyway, so it looks like it's a translation of that he got you of Mikrot Gedolot.
It says on the inside thing, it says the Jerusalem commentary, which is an English translation of the Hebrew Da'at Mikra commentary.
Oh no, so that's one commentary. Okay, yeah. Dot Mikra. I don't know Dot Mikra. I'm
It says the
guessing it's a,
Jerusalem commentary is written in the spirit of the traditional Jewish interpretation as reflected in the writings of the classic commentators of the past centuries. Its contribution to modern scholarship reflects important new knowledge in the fields of da 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 da.
yeah. So Dot Mikra is a commentary from the Rabbi Cook Institute,
Okay.
the modern one. Yeah, which I guess they take it. It takes a combination of a lot of things.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah,
And it's a modern commentary that kind of like tries
yeah,
to summarize and then add any modern discoveries, because it does say like it's Jerusalem commentary is a commentary of the land of Israel composed in Israel. It pays particular attention to the geography, landscape. Da, 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 da. So
yeah. So the Rav Kook Institute isn't just a Zionist institution, but it is a
Mhm.
Zionist institution.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Um, I mean, they put out some of the best stuff out there. But yeah, when you said it, I just kind of assumed he might have thing. Apparently, Don also has that book. Some
Oh,
Septuagint
nice.
translators to English say, "Will the wild donkey bray for no reason if he is not seeking food? Will bread be eaten without salt, or is there any taste in empty words?" That seems like as good as anything.
Yeah, there's also like it shares that word for the white of an or the egg. It
Yeah.
also has a root uh, that here on Bible Hub is connected to a word that's used for dream.
Yes, I was actually thinking that. Yeah, chalamut. Yeah, Berir. Okay, so Rabbi Mullet was listening, and he said he believes that the bet here is a preposition, and rear comes from saliva. my first
Hmm.
instinct was that Berir is one word, and well, apparently they also see it that way. But it seems my first thing was it comes from borer, which means to separate. Um, but I mean, you can. I think you can read it Berir Halamut. Yeah, you. That's hello, Jason.
Hi, how are you doing?
Do we know
I,
you?
No, I'm just like a new person. I'm very interested in learning Hebrew.
Aha. Okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Um. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, you could kind of read it that way as uh im yesh tam berir halamut. Yeah. You could I think read it as is there a taste to dreams or fantasies?
well, that would make sense in the context because Elihu, um, when or wait, I mean Eliphaz when he in chapter 4 tells Job of that dream that he has,
Mm.
and here in verse 5
Hmm.
and 6, uh, Job is saying like, does the wild donkey bray when he has grass or low when he has fodder? That means like he's crying out because he doesn't have any answers.
Yeah.
And then he says, can that which is tasteless be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the, my translation says juice of the mallow? But um, he's making a comment to Eliphaz that what he just said is tasteless and garbage.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that this commentary dot Mikra would try to find the like the plant that it might have been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And it's connected to the donkey, but it's connected to the wild donkey. The wild donkey would have gnawed on this type of plant um, in the sort of wasteland.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
we'll never get through all of this if I haven't even read it the first time through. Me'ana lingoa nafshi hema kidvei lachmi. My soul refuses to touch them. Ma'ana lingoa nafshi. Okay. They are to me as loathsome food.
Bad, spoiled food, bad food. Yep.
I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
I think he's saying it's just spoiled food, bad food.
Bad food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Devei lachmi, like I think it means like crumbs, illness, languishing,
But
drip.
I mean, I don't know if it's like it could be more spoiled or is it lesser food, which is like I didn't like it's not as much food. So loathsome food, because to loathe someone is to like kind of
Hate
hate
it.
yourself, self-loathing. So you know what I mean? There's a interesting there.
Yeah. I mean, the language it's really difficult to translate. I'm not. I would never like if I just would not presume to translate this. Mi yiten tavo she'elati v'tikvati yiten Eloah. Oh, that I might have my request. Well, who would it? Who would make it so that my request will come? V'tikvati yiten Eloah, and will God grant me my hope? They translated that I long for.
He longs for a steak. That's what I would at that point.
not quite.
Yeah.
Ve'yoel Eloah v'yidapeni yater yado ve'yivatzeni. Even that it would please God to trample on me. Well, Ve'yoel, I mean,
My translation says to crush me.
well, yeah, Yidakeni is it's Yoel that I'm kind of wondering about.
Would be willing to show willingness.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I
So
mean,
that little thing that looks like a 7 with a dot on top of it is a Y.
this
With the X is the O, like a vowel.
this one.
Yeah. No,
Okay,
I'm just
yeah,
trying to
so
understand the language.
That is a yud. That is it makes
Yud.
a Y sound, and
Yeah.
above it, that dot is a cholam, which makes an O sound. So yo.
Yo. Yeah, I get it. So I mean, I'm trying to get it. You know.
I get it. Yeah. So please God, yeah. To crush me is yidakeni. Yeah. Yater yado v'yivatzeni. That he would let loose his hand and castrate me is the actual thing.
Got me up the castrate. Wow.
Yeah, but sa is one of the biblical words, if I remember correctly, for someone who is
Greedy.
castrated.
That's crazy.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's the word. Well, be greedy, be cut off. There, yivatsa. Okay, I guess I could see that. Yeah.
So that strange Y is like a V.
Which one? This.
Because you pronounced it when it was highlighted. So no,
Okay.
the one on the left. Yeah. The YV looking thing.
So from right to left, vayavatseni. That's how you say this.
Yeah.
The first letter is a vav with
Okay.
a chirik. So the yod there is actually it's a vowel there. So V.
So it's a vowel system. I get it. Yep.
Yeah. And then va, right? So this is
Va.
a bet with
Yep.
with a patach beneath it, and then a tzaddik.
Tzaddik.
And this tzadi has a shva and a mapik in it, which is like a dagash. Sorry, so it's a being doubled.
Yeah.
And then it's ayin, vayivatzeni, and then ni
Ayin.
is the suffix for me.
Wow. What a complicated language.
Actually, I mean, it's not that complicated. If you look on my channel for my Jonah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that.
Yeah, I have a Jonah playlist, and honestly, if you memorize the first half hour presentation that I have, that is the entirety of Hebrew biblical grammar.
Wow.
You need to know. It's like I put it in half an hour.
And that's on, is that YouTube, Jonah?
Yeah.
Is that?
It's on my channel. Just
Okay.
If you go on my channel and look at the Jonah playlist.
Yeah.
That's my
I do try to tell people that, like, you know, you can't read the Bible the same way if people translate it 3 times from Hebrew to Latin to English. You know what I mean? You're going to get the most of it when you read it in Hebrew. And I tell them that, and they kind of don't get it. And that's whatever, but I believe that, you know?
That is a big thing. Like early on in my channel,
yeah,
I used to just go through the Bible verses that I did. I would just go through basically letter by letter, breaking down the Hebrew. And it was very simple, but I did so many of those videos.
Yeah.
I started doing more advanced stuff.
Yeah.
But if you go back on my channel, the older stuff is much more basic Hebrew.
Okay, cool. So it's Jonah?
Yeah. So my recommendation for anybody who's starting out, also Rabbi Mullet's on his channel, he has the entire thing.
I'll remember that. I'll just sing about Rabbi with a mullet. I'll remember Rabbi Mullets.
So Rabbi Mullet actually also went through Job on his channel as well with basic Hebrew, but and he did a much more thorough job than I did in describing the Hebrew, and he knows how to chant it and stuff. But yeah, so I have a playlist on my channel for Jonah,
Yeah.
and he also goes through Jonah because Jonah is like the simplest Hebrew.
Yeah.
I think pretty much everybody when they're
It's
when they're
like you
speaking
kind of get the
English,
gist of it, that kind of thing.
yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty simple Hebrew in the book of Jonah. The book of Job is some of the hardest Hebrew, and it has some Aramaic in it, and
Scary book.
it's yeah, and so like yeah, that's why we ended up taking it yeah, next level. Okay, next verse. ותהי עוד נחמתי ועל אסלדה בחילה לא יחמול כי לא כיחדתי אמרי קדוש. Then should I yet have comfort, ותהי עוד נחמתי, okay? Yea, I would exult in pain, ואסלדה בחילה, okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
In 6:9, when he says, "You'll be willing to crush me, let loose your hand and cut me off," is he saying? Would that be all saying that God kill me?
Well, no. This is actually. I mean, I think it's
Good point.
specifically referring to the verse in the Bible that says a eunuch is not allowed in the temple. Let me find
I think you have a good point, brother. I really do.
Deuteronomy 23.
I see what you're saying. Cut me off. Like, where am I going to go?
Let me pull up Deuteronomy 23:1 on Bible Hub. Okay, I think it's deliberately making a reference to this verse, Deuteronomy 23:1.
Oh wow!
Lo yavo patsua daka uchrut shafcha bekahal Hashem. Like it just sounds too close to me, like the verbs that he's using, for it not to be talking about that.
Yeah, that's wild because it even says crushing or severing.
Yeah, and it's using the same root.
So why? Okay, I always took that sort of that Job wanted God to crush him, meaning like a bug, but he's kind of alluding to just castration, like you're talking about.
I think so. Yeah.
How strange.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's kind of like the eunuch who like is not allowed into the temple, you know?
Okay.
You know, the person who's like left out because, you know, like it's not the person's fault that this person has been, you know, emasculated, right? But he at the same time he still cannot serve in the temple.
Right. So why would Job make that plea? Because he says, "Oh, that I would have my request, that God would fulfill my hope, that it would please God to crush me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off." Why is Job pleading that?
That's an interesting thing.
Well, and maybe it goes into the verse you were just reading, because then he says, "This would be my comfort. I would even exult in pain unsparing, for I have not denied the words of the Holy One." It's verse 10.
Yeah, ki lo chichadati imre kadosh. Yeah, it's like I mean, the best I can give is he's kind of saying like, at least tell me that I'm one of the people who's like, give me my space, the where I am supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is my position, right?
Right. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
We'll see. Ma kochi ki ayachel. What is my strength that I should hope? Uma kitzi ki arich nafshi. And what is my end that I should be patient? Yeah, this is another one of those verses that I think gets quoted a lot.
Mhm.
Im koach avanim kochi, if the strength of stones is my strength. Im besari nachush, is my flesh of brass. Hayim ein ezrati bi, is not my help within me. Vetushia nitche mimeni, and well, tushia, they're translating as sound policy, has been driven away from me, has been pushed off.
Mine
Okay,
has when resources driven from me.
tushia. Okay, yeah, tushia. Let's see. Tushia, they're translating it wisdom, sound knowledge, efficient wisdom, abiding success.
Yeah, that's success. The King James says, "Is wisdom driven quite from me?"
Yeah, yeah. I mean, tushia, I think, relates to being fruitful. Um, well,
Well,
they're
I mean,
saying it's from Yasha, so Yisha, meaning uncertain. Thanks a lot.
it's like every other word in Job.
Etza Higdil Tushia is from Proverbs. Yeah, apparently in Proverbs it's used to mean wisdom several times. And in Micah 6:9, abiding success. Yeah, it is every other word in, in Job. It's like,
Just a small note on the previous verse.
yeah.
The strength of stones are my flesh bronze. Behemoth has bones of bronze. I think it was his bones, and then the Leviathan has a heart like a millstone. So those two, the stones and the bronze, gets brought up again in God's speech with Behemoth and Leviathan.
Yeah, is the strength of stones. I mean, I don't like the word koach being translated as strength here. Actually, I would have probably done like potential or power.
Mm-hmm.
Of stones, my potential. Im besari nahush. See, I wouldn't have imagined that nahush means brass here. I would have bronze. I would have thought this may be so. I would have thought this may be the nun here is a prefix, and the actual word is hush, which means to feel,
Mm-hmm.
but hush, to feel, be affected, apprehend, consider. So like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why um, they're translating it as brass, but like, yeah, it's not easy to translate any of these words.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Lamas mere'ehu chased veyirat Shaddai ya'azov. To him that is afflicted, lamas mere'ehu is due from his love, is due from his friend. Well, I would say mercy, right? Lamas mere'ehu chased. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That, yeah. Virat Shaddai Azov, or else he forsakes the fear of the Almighty. Well, I mean, yeah, you can translate that as or else, but it's like, and the fear of God he leaves behind. Yeah, of the Almighty. It uses. I mean, it's interesting. Even the words for God that are used in like the Tetragrammaton. I think I've barely seen it at all.
I think it's only in the intro, in the preface, and the or in the not in the preface, in the prologue and the epilogue. It's
And
not in the middle.
and oftentimes when it uses the word God, it's using it in the singular, which most of the Hebrew Bible doesn't. It uses it
Oh, interesting.
usually in the plural. Yeah. Achaya bagdu kamo nachal. Ka'afik nachalim yavoru. My brothers dealt deceitfully, okay? Like a wadi, well, like a river, like water, like a stream, ka'afik nachalim, like a water course.
It's talking about those seasonal ones that make their way through the desert, which
Yeah.
it carves out the deep ruts, but there's no water to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the water comes and then
pass
it disappears just as fast.
Yeah. Yeah, they're fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not steadfast.
Yeah, it's not a steady running stream.
Hakodrim mini karach alemo yitalem shaleg, which are black by reason of the ice. So the Malbim last time translated kodrim, koder as leather. So it comes from the tents of Kedar. So in the Song of Songs, it refers to these dark tents, which are called tents of Kedar. So most people like they're like, okay, what does it actually mean? Does it mean dark? Does it mean and last time he translated Kedar as like leather.
Where's
Kodrim, black.
Oh,
yeah. Hakodrim mini karach, by reason of the ice. Okay. Alemo yitalem shaleg, and in which the snow dissolves. They have yitalem literally means to hide. That the yeah, I'm wondering what the Malbim will say when we get there.
well, it's interesting because 2 verses later he starts talking about the caravans, these traveling caravans. So maybe, but that's interesting. Oh man, which are dark with ice and where the snow hides itself is what my translation is saying.
Yeah, yitalem means to hide itself.
Okay, so
they translated it dissolves.
Okay, so black for the reason of the ice and where the snow dissolves.
Well, okay, so the two, like, there's a constant, like, you have to remember the poetry, right? So
Mhm.
there, the constant thing all through this chapter and for most of this has been, right, X Y X Y, right?
Yeah, because he
So
just talked about the wadis that don't have any water, and now it's talking about the ice, which is
yeah.
basically the water is as inaccessible as a dry riverbed, in which holds the snow.
Hakodrim mini karach alemo yutalem shaleg. Oh, I see. So like he's saying like it's so I don't know if you're in Texas, so you probably have the same thing
Kansas.
as we do here. Oh, you're in Kansas. Okay. So here the Mojave, if you've ever been to the Mojave, which I don't know if you
I
have,
have.
like there's when it rains, everything floods,
Yeah.
right? And then the water goes away.
Mhm.
Yes, there's like these dark rivulets and stuff where the water was running. So it seems to me that he may be like that's the imagery there,
Mhm.
right? That there's water deep beneath, but it's not going to do you any good.
Yeah. Because he's basically saying to his friends at this point, he says, by not showing me loving kindness, you're forsaking the fear of the Almighty. And then he's using this metaphor of water. Like I need a drink of water, and you're not giving me anything.
Yeah.
But it's just funny that he, like, so we have the wadi that's empty. All right,
Yeah.
fine. Then why does he say something about ice, where the snow is withheld in it? And maybe it's just saying that like either the dry wadi or the ice, like I still can't get water from either. Is that's like the closest I can get to making sense of it, like the imagery here.
Yeah, so there's that psalm. Um, what's which psalm am I thinking of? No.
Oh, you know what? This has to do with when God says, "Do you know about the storehouses of the hail of the snow, for that are stored up for the time of judgment?"
Let me see if I can find this. I'm
Sorry, I'm interested in what that psalm says, but
yeah. No, yeah. I hear you. It's just I also want to find.
but there's a lot of stuff in this chapter that connects to God's speech.
Yes, Psalm 147.
147.
No, why is it saying Psalm 147? Is it? Yeah. So
He gives snow like wool.
right. Hanoten shela katzamer kafur ka'afer yefazer mashlich karcho kefitim lifnei karatom yamod yishlach devar v'yamsem yazlu mayim. So like my rabbi once gave one of my rabbis gave a whole thing about talking about how like ice doesn't have water until it's broken, right? And then it breaks and then there's cool water behind it.
Oh, you know what? He's saying that his brethren are black for reason of the ice. Which is, he's saying, my brethren have dealt deceitfully like a wadi, and like the water courses which disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this other verse is still about the brethren who are black for reason of the ice. So they say,
yeah, I definitely
Yeah,
think that 15 and 16 are one thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 17 just continues the thing. He says, when they melt, they disappear, and when it's hot, they vanish from their place.
Be'et yezorvu nitzmatu behumo nid'aku ahu mimakomam. When the time comes, they grow warm. Yezorvu, okay. They vanish. Nitzmatu. Okay. Behumo, when it is hot, nid'aku, they are consumed out of their place. Bimakomam. Okay.
Yeah, let me read what God says. It's just 3 short verses in 38. He says, have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or have you seen the storehouses of the hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war? What is the way to the place where the light is distributed, or where the east wind is scattered upon the earth? I guess just those first 2. He reserves the hail and the snow for the day of battle and war. I still don't know what that. It's a strange connection, but I think God's speaking to this part in chapter 6 somehow. Maybe.
Might be connected to the plague of
yeah, that too.
Hail. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Adam has been telling us the Septuagint to English again. Would that my request would come about and the Lord would grant my hope. Let the Lord begin and wound me, but let him not utterly destroy me. Interesting to lose all the nuances, like it referred to the temple and crushed bits concept. Yeah, what can I tell you? I think the language is just obviously like it just sounds like that verse from the Torah.
You know what? Sorry. Like the bronze part connects back or connects to God's speech talking about Behemoth. And God goes into detail about Behemoth's loins and his member.
Okay.
And that's like, well, the only reason why I bring it up is because it's the exact opposite of what Job was saying earlier about being castrated and crushed.
And he meant, yeah.
How strange.
Saying he sort of wants to be left out because he's so done with this life. I think maybe, but the best I can figure is he at least wants to know what his place is. Septuagint, is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh made of bronze, or have I not trusted in him, but help is far from me? Mercy has rejected me, and the visitation of the Lord has disregarded me. My relatives pay no attention to me. They pass by me like a wave, or as though I were a failing brook. Those who once reverenced me now look upon me like snow or frozen ice. Oh, that's how they translate Hakodrim? For when it melts at the approach of the heat, it is no longer recognized for what it was. It is the Septuagint after all. Okay. Yilaftu orchot darkam, the ya'alu betohu veyovedu. So orchot is caravans. The caravans turn this way, and that is in their course.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, orchot darkam. Ya'alu betohu veyovedu. They go up into the waste and perish. I mean, tohu obviously goes back to Genesis 1.
Yeah.
Interesting. They ascend to chaos and are destroyed. Interesting. Hibitu orchot tema, the caravans of Tema, I don't know what that means, looked or glanced, Halichot Sheva Kivu Lamo, the companies or the ones that go to Sheva, of the things that go of Sheva, waited for them. Okay, Kivu
Mine says
Lamo.
hope.
Yeah.
Travelers of Sheba hope.
Yeah, Kivu. So it could also mean to gather. But yeah, hope, gather, align, all of those could be. Boshu ki batach bau. They were confounded. Well, I would say they were ashamed because they had hoped. Well, because they trusted. Bau adeha veyachparu. They came there and were abashed. Yachparu. Okay.
Yeah, it's all a metaphor for these travelers. They go off their course trying to find, I'm assuming, an oasis, the water that he was talking about earlier. But yet what they find is nothing. And so there's another insult to Eliphaz, saying like, I hoped that you would be able to come here, or I don't know exactly how the metaphor necessarily works. Like I don't know exactly.
Well, I mean, he says my brothers have betrayed me.
Yeah. And so he's like the caravan. He says they are ashamed because they were confident. They come there and are disappointed. It's interesting because his friends were the travelers that traveled to him. And then he's sort of saying that he has come to them and now has been disappointed. Or maybe he's saying that his friends are now disappointed in him.
Well, Boshu ki batach. So batach is in the singular.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're translating it as they had hoped. But you could translate it as they were ashamed because he trusted in them.
He was confident.
Yeah.
Huh. They are ashamed because
that one's in the singular.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Ki ata heitem lo tir'u chatat v'tir'au. For now you are like it. You see terror. Ki ata heitem lo tir'u chatat v'tir'au. And are afraid. They're dropping the not. Like there's a no in there, and I don't see where they're putting it. Ki ata heitem, unless that lo is not a not. Lo tir'u chatat v'tir'au. What's your translation?
You have now become nothing. You see my calamity and are afraid.
Right. Okay. Ki ata heitem lo, because you became nothing. Tir'u chatat v'tir'au. You see terror and are afraid.
Now this is interesting because he's saying that his friends have traveled. They are ashamed because Job is confident in his lament. They come and are disappointed, and now they have become nothing. This is interesting because he says, first, my brothers are treacherous. They haven't given me water. And now he's saying almost the opposite, that these travelers have come to him and he has made them afraid and they become nothing. It's almost like he's saying like, he's flipping the metaphor on himself, showing how he has become a calamity to them, just as their lack of love for him has become a calamity for him. Does that make sense? Am I saying that right?
I think I understand what you're saying. It's just a very weird way of ki ata heitem lo, because at this point you have become not.
Yeah, on Bible Hub it says of no help, but I don't know.
They're just adding the help.
Yeah, you have become not like a. Is it just a negation?
It's just a no.
You have become no.
Yeah. You have become no.
Well, it kind of gets to what was said in 18. It says they go up into the waste and perish, into the or the what is it?
The
The
tohu.
tohu.
Yeah.
The tohu and perish.
Yeah. And okay, I have to point out tir'u v'tir'au, right? Tir'u means you see, tir'au means you are afraid, right? So they sound so much alike.
Yeah.
Tir'u chatat v'tir'au. You see dread and fear. Hachi amarti havu li. Did I say bring me something? Okay. Umikochachem shechadu ba'adi, or give a ransom. Shochad.
Is it ransom?
I would have translated it as whatchamacallit, as bribe.
Yeah, mine says bribe.
Yeah. Shechadu ba'adi. But it's like, have you bribed for me? Have you given a bribe for me from your things? Umaltuni miyad tsar, or deliver me from the enemy's hands. Umiyad aritzim tifduni, or redeem me from the hand of tyrants. Okay. Umiyad tifduni. Okay. Horuni va'ani achrish. Teach me and I will hold my peace. I will be silent. Uma shagiti havinu li. And cause me to understand wherein I have erred or sinned. Ma nimratsu imrei yosher uma yochiach hocheach mikem. How forcible are right words? Ma nimratsu imrei yosher. Okay, but what does your reproof seek to reprove? Okay, what is your rebuke? Yeah. What does your rebuke do? Yeah. Halahochach amilim tachshovu ularuach imrei noash. Do you think your words to be a sound argument? Okay. Yeah. But the sayings of a desperate man to be mere wind.
Yeah.
Or do you think of them as the word, like, or the wind of somebody who is given up? Noash.
Just a short note. This is the first time that words have been said to be as wind, and later on they'll use this phrasing again to be like, you have such windy knowledge, or what should it like? Why do you pay attention to me? Because of my wind, and then God ends up showing up in the whirlwind. So it's the wind that collapses the house of his children too. That was where wind happens previously, but this is the first time that their speech is being talked about as wind. Anyway, I just wanted to note that.
Afal yatom tapilu. Wow, you okay? Would you even overthrow a? That's not how I would have translated. I would have.
Mine says, "Would you cast lots over the fatherless?"
You could do that. Yeah. or would you fall upon an orphan?
Oh, like attack?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it could be, and especially, I mean, with a Christian translation, like cast lots makes a lot of sense because then that would that would
Like when they're casting lots for Jesus'
exactly, yeah,
clothes. Yeah.
yeah. Psalm 22. V'tichru al re'achem, or seek to undermine your friend, or I mean, literally, would you dig beneath your neighbor? I think is how I would translate it.
Hmm.
Va'ata ho'ilu fenu bi, now therefore be good enough to turn towards me. Va'al pnechem im achazev, for surely I will not lie to your face. Well, achazev, I mean, yeah, it can mean to lie, but it can also mean to like dream, to to imagine. Shuvu na al tehi avla v'shuvu od tzidki ba. Return, I pray you. Let there be no unfairness. Okay, and turn back again. My cause is just. Well, I mean, return and turn back both could be repent because it's the same word. Shuv od tzidki ba. My cause is just.
Yeah, he's really pleading with him at this point to listen to him and not rebuke him.
Hayesh beloshoni avla, is there, and it's the same word avla, second time. Im chiki lo yavin havot. Can my taste, literally my cheek, understand havot? They're translating as crafty device. Okay.
Mine says, "Can not my palate discern the cause of calamity?"
Yeah, this word havuot, I mean, it's a strange word. Desire, chasm, destruction.
Where else did it
Foolish
show up?
son.
Destruction. Yeah.
Okay. Now that we read through it,
Well, he says, "Cannot my palate discern the cause of calamity?" And then before he was talking about the tastelessness of the there's that poetic connection.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's find the Malbim. Okay. The third oration, Job's reply to Eliphaz's first speech. Okay. Iyov shav lechazek et da'ato. So Job is now going to defend his thoughts, asher hiniach, which he had left before. Ki eretz nitna biyad hamaracha, because he believes. So according to the Malbim, what he's arguing is that it's fate basically, but like the stars which control what happens on the earth. Ve'ein din v'cheshbon al ma'aseh b'nei adam. There's no judgment or accounting on what people do. Im tovim, im ra'im, whether they're good or bad. To kol ma'asav kulam mufrachim, because he's Sam Harris determinist. In efshariyut biyado l'shanot et hamukhrach, a person can't change anything. He's a Calvinist. I love mitzad mazalo marachato, because of the constellation he was born and his fate. Ki ein hevdel bein tzaddik v'rasha, and therefore you can't tell a difference between a just man and a wicked man. V'kol zeh hochiach mema shenir'a tzaddik Iyov betzidko. And all of this can be seen from the fact that Job was nir'a tzaddik oved betzidko. You see a saintly man being destroyed in his righteousness. Kasher birar min ha'maaseh asher karahu, like he explained from what happened to him. Ki haya kichli oved hagam shehu tzaddik v'yashar, because he was basically a shattered vessel, even though he did what was right. The Eliphaz satar rayato, so and Eliphaz disagreed with him about this. Bama shehichlit shahara hamaseget et hatzadik hu rak lefi sha'a, says that bad things happen to good people only for a small time. V'lo nimtza tzaddik oved, and you wouldn't find a righteous person who completely gets destroyed. Rak shenimtza tzaddik mityasser al yedei chet kal shechata al amarek hachet hakal hahu beyisurin kalim. So you see that righteous people will suffer based on small sins that they did in order to kind of purge them of these. Lafi sha'a kedei latzilo al yadam ma'avda nitzchit, to keep them from eternal damnation. Umizeh hamin hayu yisurei Iyov ladat Eliphaz, and Eliphaz thinks that's what these things are. Job's suffering. Al-zeh ta'an Iyov, and to this Job leads ki uka makat mavet, that he was hit by a deathly, like a fatal blow. V'chilyon asher lo yichyeh od chilyo zeh, and he things which like that he couldn't be able to live anymore. Kamo shabirer berayot siman vav daled. So chapter 6 verses 4 through 13 is him explaining that at length. Ve'ech im kan yenachamenu shal yedei yisurin halalu yemaraku chataim hakali, chatav hakali. Right? How is he going to find comfort through these? That these are just purging him of the minor sins that he might have. Val yadam yemalet mera nitzchi, that through them he's going to be saved from eternal damnation, or memavet v'avdon, or from dying or being destroyed. V'od yashuv yichyeh acharei napalo. And is he going to be able to live after the falling that he's had? Achar shelo nish'ar lo tikva, that he no longer has hope. Rak lehitavot sheyukdam lamavet, but his only hope is that death will come. Laman yichaletz migodel mechovav, that he would be freed from his pains, and that's verses 11. Chapter. This is chapter 7, 11 through 17. Okay. Ve'im yamar shachat chatayim gedolim, and if you're going to say that he had great sins, ad shenigzar alav hamavet bedin, that he should have been put to death, על זה שואל שידעו לו מה פשעו ומה חטאו. So in verses 28 and 30, he's telling them, if you're going to tell me that I've sinned, what exactly are these sins that you're telling me? ומה שהוכיח את עוונו, ממה שלא עמד בניסיון ותקף קרא תיגר. And if you're going to, that what they said was that he immediately was how do they translate this? His own guilt by his inability to stand the test and his hasty complaint. Kamo she'amar in chapter 4, ki ata tavo alecha v'taleh, verse 5 in chapter 4. Al zeh hashiv shehatluna shelo hi ma'ata be'erech yisurav v'havoto hagadol. That he's actually not complaining very much, considering all the bad things that happened to him. And that's verses 2 through 5. Milvad zeh, not just this, hitpalsef listor da'at Eliphaz. Hitpalsef? He employs philosophy. Okay. That's a new word for me. Listor da'at Eliphaz, to undo what Eliphaz was saying. בכללו גם במה שהניח שאפשר שימצא צדיק מתייסר כדי למרק עוונו, even though he agrees that it's possible that a righteous man may suffer so that he doesn't ולהצילו ממוות על ידי חטאו, right, to purge him of his sins. נגד סברה זאת הניח הנחה אחרת אמיתית. So he gives a different reasoning. ידוע שכל בעל חיים וכל נמצא נברא בהכרח לאיזה תכלית. From the fact that everything has been created for some reason. והנה יש מן הנמצאים אשר לא נראה בהם שום פעולה ועבודה. But yet we see that some things don't actually have any use. ובעל כורחנו כי הוויות הנמצא ההוא וקיומו כל משך ימי עמידתו היא התכלית שלו. And the very fact that it exists is the whole reason why it exists. אולם ברוב הנמצאים ראינו כי כל הדברים יגיעם פועלים ומתפעלים איש איש ממלאכתו אשר המה עושים. But we see that for most things, a person understands that they are for the purpose that they have and whatever their purpose is.
Is this?
Yeah.
Sorry, dude. Is this the? I don't know if this is the right pronunciation. Is like chinam or hinam? It means like without reason, without cause.
Chinam, yeah.
Is that what he's?
Well, so right now, I mean, the Malbim is giving an overview of what he thinks he's saying, and I think in this part,
yeah, I'm just wondering if that's what he's
talking about, like the wild donkey and stuff. And his understanding is when you look at things, right? Most things have a purpose to them, but some things apparently don't. Like some, כאילו רודפים בזה להשיג את התכלית אשר עבורו נבראו.
Because God says after the first set of disasters, he says to Satan, you incited me against Job without reason. Hinam.
Yeah.
You incited me against him, and then Satan says, well, strike his
right.
So I think I just wanted to do you think maybe that's what Malbim's commenting on. Like it's that kind of idea, right?
No, I think right now he's trying to explain the wild donkey and the stones and stuff. So
Right, but he's saying things that exist without a reason or without cause. Like I know maybe he's
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
referencing
yeah.
that verse
Oh,
directly,
you
but
mean
it's
okay? So
just in the same concept.
I mean, I haven't seen him make the connection yet. I could see possibly he will make the
Okay.
connection. Yeah, I'm
But I like that when you were saying it, you said that some things exist without a reason, without cause, and it's interesting because Satan is arguing there's a causal chain. Like Job only serves you so that he can get stuff.
right.
Like there's
Yeah.
a cause for it, and God says no, there's no cause. Job just serves me, and so this is what the bet is about. And then it's interesting because God comes back to Satan, like I just said, and says, "You incited me against him without any reason." And
Yeah.
and like what it's almost like it's the purpose. It's almost the innate purpose for something. Like the Satan,
Mhm.
his it is almost an accusation of God back to the Satan to say, like, you made me destroy him without a reason. Is that the reason you wanted me? Is that you wanted me to destroy him? It's almost like, and Satan has to double down at that point because he says skin for skin.
Right.
You still haven't fulfilled the obligations of what our bet was. I hate saying it's a bet because it's not a bet, but and then this is the last we hear, but the introduction of that idea is interesting because then it gives you at least a hint of a thought that comes into your mind about, oh, maybe what's happening to Job doesn't happen for a reason. Like there's a meaninglessness to it, and then this is actually why Job sort of cries out, is because he can't,
because there's no meaning. Yeah.
there's no reason, and he wants the reason besides it being unjust and all that other stuff, like the meaninglessness of it, and then that's one aspect that's sort of driving Job to despair.
Yeah, I mean, what the Malbim's explaining right now is that Job is saying no, there's no reason for
Right.
all this stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So all right, that's good. Thank you.
V'ha'adam ke'echad me'ishei habriya, and a person is one of the things that have been created. V'hanifchar mehem, and the greatest of them. V'hechrach sheyivakesh eize shlemut asher alav yish'af kol yamei meshach amidato. Right? He's definitely going to think, like, okay, what am I here for? Ulam ma hema hatnaim ha'emtzaim hamuvdalim hamovilim oto el shlemuto. What are the methods which allow him to get to his fullness? Niflu bahem deot shonot. There are various opinions of this. Ki yesh omrim shahamaaseh asher hu emtza'i kel shlem el shlemuto hu mugbal. There are those who say that the methods are set. They're a few. She'im yashlim hamaaseh hahu kavar hisig et shlemuto. That if he actually does whatever the deed is, he'll achieve it. V'yesh omrim ki hu bilti mugbal. They say that it's actually infinite. Mitzad atzmo, from him himself. Rak mitzad ha'adam. Right? So it's not that you have a particular thing you're supposed to do and either you do it or you don't, right? That the finitude is from the person himself. Sha'adam tzarich la'amol kol meshach yamei chayav. That a person needs to toil all of the days of his life. Uvazet halui hashlemut shabo. Right? And that's the completion of it, that he's actually working all of it. Bein im yashlim hamase, bein im lo yashlimenu. Right? Whether he finishes or not, in that he worked on it the entire time. Ukuvar matzanu plugta kazot b'divrei Chazal, and we've this type of disagreement is in the Talmud. Ufara pihad liblichok resh lakish amar mi shelo kayam afilu chok echad yored legehinom. Right. So in Sanhedrin, Resh Lakish is saying that even a person who goes against one statute is going to hell. Rabbi Yochanan Amar mi shemishayer afilu chok echad, and Rabbi Yochanan says someone who does not befit you to say this to condemn almost all of Israel. Instead, he says, for he who has not learned even a single statute, had he done so, he would have been saved from. So, okay, I mean, this is from the Talmud, and the Talmud is very terse, but apparently their disagreement is whether or not somebody who so apparently, at least one way of reading Rabbi Yochanan is somebody who deliberately left something undone that he should have done, whereas Resh Lakish is taking a much stronger point and basically saying, "What if you make any mistakes?" Mevuar. This.
What are they both referring to?
Oh, they're actually commenting on the verse Isaiah 5:14.
Okay.
So we can take a look at that. Isaiah 5:14. It says, "Lachen hirchivu sheol nafsha ufa'ara piha lebli chok." So assuredly, Sheol or the grave has opened wide its gullet, and this is the parts that were they're discussing, and parted its jaws in a measureless gape, and down into it shall go that splendor and tumult, that din and revelry. But so the word says ufa'ara piha, and she opens her mouth to the one who does not have a statute. So they're trying to understand that particular verse, right? And their dispute is Resh Lakish seems to be saying that somebody who made, that didn't do one thing he was supposed to do, and Rabbi Yochanan, I mean, instead, who has not learned even a single statute. Honestly, I would have to learn the Talmud inside and to see what exactly they were disagreeing on. But apparently they have a similar disagreement about whether a person needs to do a particular thing or he needs to spend his entire life working towards doing the right thing. Mevuar. So what that means, Shaladat Resh Lakish, according to Resh Lakish, Tanai Shlemuto, Hu Kiyum Kol HaTorah Mibli Shiur, that he has to do everything. V'ladat Rabbi Yochanan Dai Bechok Echad. And Rabbi Yochanan, so how the Malbim is reading it, even if he does one thing, Ki Hashlemut Talui Sheyaseh Kol Ma Sheyuchal B'meshach Yemei Chayav, that he has to do what he can as long as he's doing it, right? Mm-hmm. So the question is, do you have something you have to accomplish in this world in order to be saved, right? Or do you just have to work hard at it? V'anachnu b'chakirotenu ne'emar sheda'at ketzat, and we're going to say that some people think sha'adam tzarich la'asok b'torah mitzvot tamid, that a person needs to be constantly involved in Torah and mitzvot kol yemei chayav, his entire life. Ubazeh hisig et shlemato, and in this he becomes whole. Bein shechaya harbe o shehaya lo yecholet lekayem kol hataryag hamitzvot. Whether he lived a long time or he was able to keep all the 613 commandments. Bein shemet bekotzer yamav, or he died young. O shesibot acherot menuohu ad shelo kiyam rak katzat mehem, or he wasn't able for various reasons to keep even a few of them. Kavar kanash lemuto, he's still somebody who's doing what he needs to be doing. Kishlemuto eino talui bekamut ha'avodah, right? It's not that he's getting something done. He just needs to work at it. Rak hitmadata kol yamei chayav, rather in the effort. Im ma'at ve'im harbe, if a little, if a lot. V'dat katzat, and some people have the idea shetzarich sheyashlim chuko sheyikayem kol hamitzvot. So he has to do what he has to do. That for him, there's a particular thing that he needs to do. But as hesik et shlomoto, right, and therefore he gets to the fullness of what he needs to. Ve'im lo kayam kolana, and if he doesn't do all the things he was supposed to do, af shahayanus, even if he couldn't, lo hishlim et atzmo, he didn't actually achieve what he needed to achieve. Al kol panim lishtei hadeot, but either way, according to both opinions, lo yitzdaku divrei Eliphaz. What Eliphaz is saying doesn't make sense. Sha'amar shal chet kal sha'asat tzadik, that even if a righteous person does a small sin, dahainu shelo hishlim avodato kefi hara'ui be'erech gedolat hane'evad shehu ha'kel yitvarach, right? That he didn't work as hard as you need to for God who is so great. Yavia alav Hashem yisurin lemarek avono, that God is going to make him suffer in order to purge him of his sin.
You know, this is so funny because this is basic. Like, I listened to a sermon by John Piper. You know John Piper?
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
He's like a Calvinist Reform pastor, really popular. This is his take. Basically, what he's saying that Eliphaz is saying is like Piper's Reform take on Job. That Job had a little bit of sin that needed to be dealt with, and
yeah, well, that's how he understands Eliphaz.
Yeah, which is funny because I'm just like that.
So you're saying John Piper is a heretic and burning in hell?
No,
is that what you're saying?
No,
are you condemning John Piper to hell? Just
no.
What kind of a universalist are you?
Oh my god!
You're not one of the universalists, are you?
I don't know. I don't know what I am.
God, at least you won't admit it. Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty close. But who knows, man? Who knows? That's all I gotta say.
Who knows? This is true. Right? Because if you're going to tell me that he's aren't these things actually keeping him from doing what he's supposed to do? What
things?
So the suffering that he's having keeps him from serving God.
Right.
So like this thing of like God makes good people suffer, right, in order to keep them from not doing what they're supposed to be doing, like because they didn't do as much, they weren't serving God as much as they should have. Like why would, like, that's not helping anything. That's not going to make him better.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have a servant or a worker of a king who was lazy and didn't do his work very a little bit as well as he should have. And the king is like, I'll put him in prison so that he'll make up for his sins. ובזה עוד הוסיף, לא ביטול עבודה, כל ימי משך מאסרו. And the whole time he's in prison, he's not working. So what are you getting out of this? Right? והרי טובה זו היא לא רעה גדולה. And this is bad for the servant and for the king. וכן, איך ייטב השם להצדיק שלא התאמץ בעבודתו, כפי הראוי לצורך הנאבד, right? How are you going to say that God is doing these things, right? במה שעל ידי הייסורים יוסיף רישול ויתול בעבודה זו בהכרח. That clearly this would cause it, and this apparently in chapter 7 is what verses 1 through 6 is what Job is going to argue. Va'asher yamar Eliphaz, and when Eliphaz says, "Shal yedei hayisurin sheyavi alav ata yenatzel shelo yamot kodem zmano," right? So that this suffering is going to make it so that he's not going to die early. V'yavad lenetzach, and be sent to eternal damnation. Meshiv, he would answer, "Halo bazehu met ata." Is it not that he's basically dead as it is? Achar shal yedei hayisurin. Who nishbat mimalachto, because his suffering is keeping him from doing his work. Malechet hakodesh, the work of God. Asher avuro nivra, that he was created to do. V'zeh ke'ilu eino chai b'meshach yemei cholyo ve'yisuro, and it's as if he might as well be dead when he's sick and suffering. Uma li im yamut besof yamav. And what difference does it make if he lives a shorter time, or in the middle of his life he has time when he's basically dead? The time that he can't actually serve God, it's turning into voidness, as if it's not. And this is also a permanent loss. In comparison to the time. So, like our sages said, what are the pains of love, the punishments of love, all the time that a person is kept from learning Torah and praying. Ki kesheyitbatel ma'avodato al yedei yisurav hem lo l'ra'a gedola, because this time that he can't do what God wants is very bad. And it's like death. And so he understands verses 7 and 8 in the next chapter that so it's better that a person die at the end of his life than be like a dead person in the middle of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Va'al ma sharamaz lo me'olam hatechiyah, and this that he hints about the resurrection. B'ma she'amar Iyov, chapter 4, verse 20, what Job says, Mipli mesim lenetzach yovedu, without being set to eternity, they are destroyed. Iyov yachish zot. Job is refuting this. Kikamo shehachish b'hashkacha v'bechira, just as he refuted divine providence and free will. V'talah hakol b'hanhagat hateva v'hamarechet. He said everything flows by natural ways and through the constellations. Ken yachish hatichiyah v'hagamul ha'atid. In a similar manner, he's actually denying the resurrection and any future reward. וכמו שאמרו חז"ל שאיוב כופר בתחיית המתים היה, like the sages said that Job had denied the resurrection of the dead, and that's apparently the understanding of chapter 7 verses 8 and 9. ואשר אמר אליפז שהגיעתו תשובה זו בנבואה וחזון לילה, and if Eliphaz was going to say to him that his answer came as a prophecy or a dream at night, al ze ana Eov, Job answers, she'im emet kedvarav, ki ba elav davar Hashem al ze, if it's actually true that God told him this, haya ra'ui sheyavo hadivur v'chazon el Eov be'atzmo, right? If this is prophecy, why didn't God tell Job? Why did he tell Eliphaz? Legalot lo ha'amitiyot v'lashkito miat rucho, right? So that he would know the truth and what would what you call it, comfort his soul. Ve'eza derech avar ruach Hashem mimenu, and how has God's spirit flown from him el Eliphaz to Eliphaz, asher eino ra'ui ladvar Hashem yoter mimenu, right? That he's not any greater than Job, and that's verses 13 through 14. Chutz mizeh, and more than this, ba b'ta'ana al hashkacha, he has a claim against providence. Le'emor she'ech yetzuar shaha'el yitbarach, how could a person imagine that that God, may he be blessed, hamaromam mikol, who is greater than all things, yichad hashkachato hapratiit al ha'adam hashafel me'od, that God is going to bother with providence on a specific providence on a little man, right? Ubeyoter shetihiyeh hashkacha miyuchedet, it's going to be specific to him, umitmadet it, and it's going to be every moment. Kol kach ad shagam mispar hayisurin, to even say exactly the number of suffering he's going to have. Bo'am v'suram, how they're going to come and they're going to go. Tihiyeh me'et Hashem, they are from God. Ve'ech ne'amar shechet ha'adam tesavev hashmira ha'priyatiyit hazot, and how is a person's sins going to suddenly change God's mind? Asher yuchrach l'shomro bli yamut micholyo rak yityaser beketzev yadua, right? Rather, it must be that God keeps him from dying. Okay, it's only that life and death. If God needs that person for some reason, because the philosophers understand that this type of idea that God is going to have use of these little men is beyond them, and this is apparently chapter 7 verses 17 through 21. Zeh toref ma'ana. This is basically what he answers. Eov bechlal, his general understanding. I guess he's explaining verses chapter 6 and 7. Ima shaba b'davarav b'hatluna al re'ehu asher bagdubo. Right? including what he says in his words, in that he's claiming against these people who are his companions who have betrayed him. Umesipur godel machovav, and from saying the greatness of his pains, kederach ish machovot, nagua muka elokim umeuneh, like the suffering servant in Isaiah 53. Okay, verse 2. Lu neged ma shehevi Eliphaz raya she'Iyov ein lavavo shalem im Hashem mima shelo amad b'nisayon v'tekef apam harishon shabau alav yisurin karat hager v'yitra'em al Hashem. So he's answering to Eliphaz saying, okay, you gave up on God too quickly. Shezeh raya shelo avad et Hashem me'ava, that he doesn't truly love God. Kamosh katuv Ki ata tavo alecha v'talo v'taleh halo yerecha kislatecha. The verses I can see later if you want which verses. Heshiv lo Iyov. Iyov is answering with this verse. Halavai ki im yishakel ka'asi v'havoti b'maznayim. Right? Let's. If this is the case, come on, let's have the actual accounting here. Rotzeloma sheyanuchu et ka'asi asher hitlonanti al Hashem b'kaf ha'achad ve'et havati v'shivri b'kaf hashenit. Right? Let's put my anger at God in one balance of and my suffering on the other one, and see the difference. Halavai sheyisu yachad. I wish that the two would be the same, right? He's explaining the words in this verse. V'haya mishkalam shaveh, and the two would be the same. Da'hainu halavai shelo yiyu hayesurim gadolim min ka'asi v'tromati. Just as long as they weren't greater than my anger at God, sha'az bevadai ha'iti machrish, I would shut up, v'ha'iti mekablem v'ahava, and I would accept them, ava lochen hu, but it's not true. Verse 3, ki ata im yishaklu b'moznaim, that now, if you actually weigh them, havati v'shivri mechol yamim yichbad, they're going to be more weighty than sands of the sea. Shekaf hayisurim yichbad neged kaf hitraamut. That this is going to be a weighter one. Kechol yamim, like the sands from the sea. Rotzel lomar shetlunati ke'ein nechshav neged godel hayisurim al ken devarai la'u v'nishchatu. Therefore, my words have become nothing and destroyed. Lachen hirbeti divrei traumot mitoch godel hayisurim. That's why I spoke so much about my pains, right? Because they're not equal. Verse 4. Ki v'neged mash katuv lo Eliphaz שהייסורים באו עליו לטובתו, כי לא יתייסר רק זמן מוגבל למרק חטאיו. So this is against what Eliphaz said, that they were going to purge him. וידי כן ינצל מעונש נצחי, אשר היה ראוי לו לבוא אליו עבור חטאו. It's 11:24. It must be really late where you are.
Yeah, it's like 1:30. I'm just up working, so.
Okay, you do your work. How much longer? We'll
I mean, you're just at the very beginning of his commentary.
Yeah, but most of the commentary at the beginning is the long explanation.
Right.
So that was a thing, but we'll see. V'neged mash katuv lo Eliphaz, right? What he said. V'yedei ken yinatzal me'onish nitzchi asher lo lavo elav avur chato. והחליט שיש צדיק מתייסר אבל לא ימצא צדיק עובד. אוקיי, ועל זה השיב איוב, כי מן יסוריו יש ראיה שימצא tzaddik oved. So Job says, hey, look, here's a saintly man being destroyed. כי אי אפשר כלל שירפא מחוליו זה, that it's impossible for him to get better from the sickness, ושישוב לראות באור החיים, that he should be able to live the rest of his life, כי החולה אי אפשר שיתרפא רק באחד משני פנים, because there's only two ways that a person can be healed. One, אם חוליו אינו חולי מסוכן, if it's not a dangerous sickness that he has. שניים or two, אם מוסדות גופו חזקים וטבעו חזק, לעמוד נגד החולי, עד שהטבע תנצח את החוליו. Or he's so strong that his body is able to stand against the sickness. ושני אלה התנאים הם אצלו להפך. And he does, it's the opposite for him. כי מצד החולי עצמו, הנה חצי שדי, right? That the sickness is the arrows of the Almighty. Hem kavar amadi toch libi umai. They are already within me, within his abdomen, his heart, and his intestines. Vehem chatzim meshuchim besam umavet ve'eres asher chamatam shote ruchi, which they're poisonous arrows that their heat drinks up my soul. Shechetz kazeh hamashuach bera'al אי אפשר להירפא ממנו. That such a arrow can a person can't withstand. ובכל זאת, עוד לא רפתה יד המורה בחצים, כי עוד באותי אלוה ירחני. And the archer is still sending arrows. Odenu orech negdi maracha v'yeshuv yoreh bi chatzim chadashim v'tochot chatod lebakarim k'mashal hamuka makat mavet b'milchama. So, like the analogy of someone who's been wounded fatally in a war, ve'oivav lo yaniach yado miloa od umore alav od zakim chetzim umavet, and his foes are still trying to kill him. Ve'im mitzad koach geviato sheyuchal lisbol kol makot ha'ele ולנצח את חוליו, הלא אם נחלש גופו כל כך עד שכל אוכל תתעב נפשו, אי אפשר לקוות שיגבר בכוחו על חוליו, ועל זה אמר. So, and this is where he starts talking about the weakness of his body. So verse 6-5, right? Hayanek v'hadaltut מגבילות, הינהק פרה על הדשא, היכל תפול מבלי מלח, אם ייגש שור על בריר חלמות. רוצה לומר, הפרה אשר מאכלו מאכל גרוע, that when you have a wild donkey that's eating food that's not very good, she'eino ochel rak deshe, that it only gets to eat deshe, which apparently is not great food. Hayikot b'machlo v'nahek le'amor, is he going to bray and say, Eich ochel et hadeshe she'ein bo melach, how am I going to eat this straw that doesn't have any salt? Ve'ech ochal tefel mibli melach, or how am I going to eat this waste that has no salt? O hashor shebolim lo minim geruim elamachalo, ubolim lo et hachalamot, shehu min yerek lach she'ein bo ta'am. So he translates it as also it's kind of a vegetation that doesn't have a taste. Hachi yig'al le'amor איך אוכל את החלומות היש שום טעם בריר שלו ולאכול, והנה הבעל חיים אשר באכלו גרוע מאוד בכל זה, לא יקוץ בו, that still the animal is going to eat whatever is available to it. ולא כן אנוכי שאף שמאכלי מועטים ומשובח בכל זה, אני קץ בו כל כך עדי כי ma'ana lingoa nafshi. But for me, that my food is so little, but good. What am I gonna say? But my soul refuses it. Hainu kol hadavarim hamuasim Vim asher nafshi katzel lingoa bahem, hem be'enai kedua lachmi, ad shehilachem halechem hu hadavar hayoter metuav be'enai, v'kol hadavarim hametuavim hem b'madriga lamata mimenu. So everything seems like an abomination, like disgusting to him. Asher im artze lahaflig al davar shahu metu'av v'nim'as, omer shahu nim'as etzli kamo halechem, v'achar shekol ochel teta'ev nafshi, eich etgaber al hacholi hakasher hazeh b'koach gufi. So what he's saying is that a wild donkey, even when he has bad food, will still eat it. But I have the greatest food, and I can't eat it. It's disgusting to me. So how am I going to get better? Verse 8, Mi yitan al ma she'amar Eliphaz, she'im yikabel ha'yisurim ha'ava yachlimenu mehu Hashem v'yichayehu. That what Eliphaz said, that if he actually happily accepts all his suffering, God is going to save him. Ki eino oved rak mityaser, that he's not being destroyed, he's only being chastised. Meshiv halo kol tikvato hu sheyimaher alav hamavet. His whole hope is that he's going to die soon. Ani omer mi yiten tavo shalati, who's going to give me what I want? Ba'asher hu mistapek im Hashem shomea shalato klal, that he wonders if God can hear him at all. V'gam k'sheyishma shalato hu mistapek im yaseh et bikashato. So even if God can hear him, is he actually going to do it? Al ken mevakesh. So he's asking for two things. One, mi yiten shetavo shalati lefnei Hashem v'yishma ota. Right. One, that somebody would take my request to God. Sheni sheyiten eloah tikvati. And second, that God will give what I want. So he's explaining within the words exactly how he understands that. Yoel Eloah v'yidakeni, that God shall crush me od yoter ad sheyamut tekef, even more so than he would die immediately. V'lo yaseh kemi shehu oseh ata shid kahu biyado hachat, ubiyado hachat oches bo mechazeko lebal yamut. That he doesn't want to be like someone who is being crushed on one hand and on the other hand kept alive. Rak sheyater yado, but rather that he should open his hand, וירפא ממני עד שיבצני, until he should let me go so that I should be cut off. וישלם חיי, and my life will be full, right, ended. ואמות תקף, and I will die immediately. זאת היא שאלתי ותקוותי, ואם כן, and this is what I want, and if so, ותהי עוד נחמתי לא יחמול. And that would be my, verse 10, that would be my comfort. איך אקח זאת לנחמה, מה שאתה מנחמני, שעל ידי שאקבל הייסורים מאהבה, לא יחמול השם עליי להמיתני תקף. Right? How is this going to be? Because all I want is for God to kill me. רק אריך עוד בחיי בצער, rather I am going to live in pain. לכן איך ואסלדה בחילה לא יחמול. איך אחד וחיל שאירע מלהתרעם על השם כדי שלא יחמול עליי ולא ימיתני. So how am I going to fear that God is not going to hear me and kill me? הלא זאת שימתני בזה יחמול עליי. שבזה אפטר מן הייסורים שאין להם רפואה, עוד ואין איך תאמר בהפך שאירע מהשם, כדי שלא יחמול, או שנחם מייסורי במה שלא יחמול, כי לא כחדתי אמרי קדוש. רוצה לומר, שאם לא אחד את נבואתך, מה שאתה אומר בנבואה בשם אחד קדוש מדבר, שהוא המלאך המנבא את הנביאים, על ידי כן לא יחמול עליי ואהיה עוד בחיים הקשים האלה שהם מרים ממוות. ואם תאמר שעל ידי זה אשוב וארפא מן החולי ועוד אחיה בחיים ערבים, על זה משיב. This is, well, I'll read their translation. Job finds no comfort in a prophetic message related by Eliphaz that his suffering is temporary and that since it will save him from perdition, it is ultimately for his own good. In his present condition, the only pity he wants is to be allowed to die, for he is beyond healing. Okay, again, these are the parts they didn't translate because he's explaining the words within the words.
Right.
And I'm not sure how you translate that to another language. And Tayo and Chezi woke up, which means it's getting late.
Late.
I am only going to go until midnight. Okay. Ma kochi hu neged shnei hadavarim shehizkir. So this that he asks, what is my potential, is according to the two things that he spoke about in verses 4 and 5. Shacholi chazak me'od v'hu memik et besaro b'shchin ra, that he's very sick. Shnayim, and 2, shekocho hapnimi chalush, that he himself is very weak. V'yifshar she'yitgaber al hacholi lesavlo. It's not possible that he'll get better. Al ze amar ma kochi ki ayachel. What is my capacity that I should have hope? Shekaveh shekoach haguf yigaber al hacholi. Shnayim gam im arich nafshi. And even if my soul gets stronger, שכוח הגוף יהיה חזק להעריך כוח שלא יגבע מרוב המחאוב, מה יהיה קצי, הלא ימות מפני החולי המעמיק כל הבשר עד שכל בשרו יקלה, מפרש נגד מה שאמר מה כוחי כי אייחל. Again, he's explaining the words within the words, and I'm not good enough to translate that. Verse 12. Hayim koach avanim kochi is do I have this strength of stones? V'neged ma shekatov ma ketzi ki arich nafshi omer hayim besari nachush shelo yamik v'yerakev al yedei hashchin hara hamiko mekalehu. So he's saying like bronze doesn't tarnish, right? Am I like a stone or bronze that doesn't get destroyed? Haim,
And and I think he's got that sickness where he's got the boils, and so he's like, it's ironic. Is my flesh bronze?
Right. He actually mentions that Shechin. Hashchin, yeah, the boils, right? Yeah. Hayim. אתה משיב על מה שאמר אליפז שהגיעו הוא בנבואה. So he's going to answer what Eliphaz said came to him in prophecy. התשובה על סיבת ייסורי איוב, שהם רק ייסורים לפי שעה, למעט חטאות וישוב לחיות לראות בטוב, שעל זה רמז במה שכתוב לא כחודתי קודש. משיב, he answers, שאם כדברך שהופיע רוח השם לנחם אותי, that God showed himself to you to comfort me, להודיעני, and to let me know, כי ישאיר לי אחרית ותקווה, that I still have hope. למה בא הדיבור אליך ולא אליי? Why is he saying it to you and not me? וכי ein ezrati bi, right? And that's how he understands the words, is my help not within me. Atzmi, וכי איני ראוי לכך שיבוא עליי עזרתי, מבקש שהיא הנבואה להשקיטני מרגזי בלי אמצעי, right? So God could be helping me without some intermediary. ולמה תושיע נדחה ממני למס מרעהו חסד, right? And again, I mean, he's showing in the words, right? Why is this wisdom coming set off against me from a companion who is who would be kind? למה נדחה ועברה התושיע שהיא ההופעה הנבואית ממני והלכה אל המס מרעהו, and it goes to the person who is to the downfallen person from his friend who has kindness for him. Shahu Eliphaz, which is Eliphaz. Verse 14, Lamas hamemases et merehu bechesed v'cherfa. Ve'ozev bazeh yirat Shaddai. Interesting. Okay, so he's translating the person who is downtrodden as the one who's downtrodden by his companions who are trying to be kind by telling him, by chastising him. Well, Bazeh yirat shakai, right? And through this, he's going to leave the fear of God. Shahu Eliphaz shecharfu bedvarav le'amar lo halo yiratcha kislatecha kedei lachazek. This was earlier. We had this is not your fear, your foolishness. Amunat hashkacha v'yirat Hashem shayedei kan yiru me'onsho v'hashkachato ve'ech el hamas et מראהו באה התושיע והנבואה ולא עלי שאני הבעל דבר. So why is it that the person who's chastising me is the one who's getting the words of compassion and not to me? ולכן איני מאמין בנבואתך זאת. I'm not going to believe that you got this from prophecy. 15. Achai bagdu, my brothers have betrayed me. Dama begidat re'eh lebegidat hanachal. So now he's comparing the betrayal of a companion to the deception of a stream. Asher darko lekaresh biyamot hachoref, because it's there in the winter. Umeyamav nifa'im v'nasim kagarid ad shehakol holchim alav k'mashagiim yemei hakayitz she'az matchil hakerach liames et hanachal mitmale al kol gedutav. So as the snows are melting, that's when it becomes full in all its ways. Min hashlagim harabim sharim, from the snowpack. Val yedei shekadurei kerach makvim merotzat miyamav yishtof b'chazka v'yavor al gedutav v'yachriv arim umedinot v'yishtof kol asher yimtza b'darko kenoda. Right, that you end up with floods. Right, when it's just getting warm, suddenly you end up with floods and destruction. V'zeh ha'pekida, and this is the betrayal ha'achat asher aleha amar achai bagdu kemo nachal. So that's the first betrayal. They betrayed me like a river. והבגידה השנייה הוא שאחר שהתפשר הנחל וילך על אפיקיו ומצא מימיו, אז המים מתחלקים לנחלים רבים ולזרועות רבות עד שהמים נאבדים ומתייבשים ואחר כך אין מים לשתות. So at one time it's flooding, and at the other time it all has gone away. Like a stream, it goes away. So now he's explaining this first betrayal. Hakodrim ba'et yikadru v'yakfihu al yedei hakerach. אז נדמה כי עלימו יתעלם שלג. היינו שהשלג הנמצא עליהם ישאר עליהם עולמית, אבל אחר כך בעת יזרבו, אם יצרבו מן השמש הזורח בקיץ, אז נצמתו יותר וימס הקשר אשר התקשרו ונקפאו, ובחומו עת שיגבר החום בעולם הנחל יתחמם, אז נדחו המים ממקומם ואז. Okay, so he's explaining it in the words that, and I'm not sure how he's translating hakodrim, yikadru, but yakpiu, they gather. In the winter, they gather up in the snowpack, and then they suddenly flood. And then by the time the summer comes, and the fact is, this is more true in the desert environment of Israel than it is in most places.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Verse 18. Yelafetu v'yachazu מאיתם כל הנמצא בארחות דרכו, כי ישתפו על ידם כל הנמצא בדרכם, that they wipe away everything that's in their way. וזה הבגידה האחת. That's the first betrayal. והבגידה השנית הוא כי אחר כך יעלו בתוהו ויעבודו. And the second one, so the first one is that they make their way, and the second one is that they become nothing, that they go away. שאחר כך יתייבשו המים ויתהוו, יתהווה מהם עדים העולים באוויר ויעבדו מן העולם. Okay, and they evaporate. Okay, 19. Habitu, they glanced. והנה אורחות ושיירות ההולכים לתמה, וכן הליכות שבע. היינו ההולכים לשבע, things that are going to Tama and to Sheba. הם הביטו וקבו למו. They glanced and gathered. El hanechalim hanizkarim. Aha, they were looking at the these rivers. What? Well,
Did you say? I was thinking that they were drawing a parallel between the travelers, the caravans, and then the ice, but they're just looking for the water.
He's saying that he's saying that that's what they were. I think. Yeah. El hanechalim hanizkarim shechashvu sheyimtzu bahem mayim lishtot bederech. Right? They thought they would be able to drink. Aval boshu mitzad ma shebatach kol achad mehem al hamayim ha'ele velo hachin lo mayim lishtot. In that they had their faith in it. Va'ata ba'u adeh ad et ba'u el habetachon shebetchu v'yechparu. כי אין מים לשתות, ושתי הבגדים האלה נמצא ברעב, שתחילה ישבו איתו לארץ שבעת ימים, and these two betrayals he found in his companions, that first they sat with him for 7 days, ואין דובר דבר, and they didn't say anything, ונדבו אז כנחל הנקפה ונקרש, like that they were like a frozen stream.
I never thought about that. That he's referring to the 7 days he sat with them.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
אין זז ממקומו ונדמה כי עשוי למדרך כך רגל כמו עד היבשה. כן דמה איוב שיוכל לדבר כל אשר יחפץ והם יחרישו. He thought he could say whatever he wanted and they wouldn't say anything. אבל אחרי שנתחממו בתחילת הוויכוח נעשו כשטף נחל השוטף כל אשר נמצא בדרכו צדיק עם רשע. But after they had warmed up a little bit, then they started flooding over both the wicked and the righteous. Ken hirshiu et Eov velo bachanu bein tov lara. They didn't distinguish, just like a flood doesn't distinguish. They didn't distinguish between a good person and a bad person. Amnam haya al kol panim tikva ki yimtza v'kochoyam mayim zarim karim nozlim ma'anei hachochma v'hadat. That he had this hope that he was going to find this cold water, right, which comes from the well springs of wisdom and knowledge. Tzimono b'divreihem, and Yeraveh Tzimono, his thirst would be slaked in their words. V'gam ze lo haya ki alu betohu el divrei sichlut umilim lo lahoil umfaresh. But rather, what happened was it was as if it wasn't. He didn't even get his thirst filled. Ki ata haitem lo. רוצה לומר, רעכם אשר אתה זה מקרוב, הייתם לו בעזרתו ובבריתו, that these people who were close to him, כי עד היום ההוא שהתחיל הוויכוח, היו אוהביו, until the day that they started disputing, they were the people who loved him, ומצטערים בצרתו, and they had compassion for his suffering. ואיך ברגע אשר תראו חטאת, as soon as you saw the dread, ושבר ותיראו, that it broke and now you're afraid. ובגדתם בו, and you betrayed him. להרשיעו על לא חמס בכפו, and you said he was weak, he had to be evil even though he hadn't done anything. כי הנה לפעמים ימעול אדם בברית אוהבו, אם רואה שיצטרך להילחם בעדו למלטו מן האויב. Sometimes you see that a person breaks their covenant when they see that they have to go fight against a enemy. או שיצטרך לפדותו מממון מיני שבי, or that he's going to have to pay to redeem him from captivity. שאז יפר בריתו כדי שיפטר מהחיוב המוטל על האוהב לעשות לאהובו. So he finds a reason to destroy the covenant that they have between them, so that he doesn't have to do his part. אבל אתם למה הפרתם ברית אחים? Why did you do this? הכי אמרתי הבוא לי ממון, did I say הבו לי, did I say give me money, או מכוחם שחדו בעדי, or do you have to make bribes for me, להילחם בעדי בכוחכם, to fight with your strength? ומפרש, הכי אמרתי מכוחכם שחדו בעדי. And that's how I explain these words, from your power. He understands it as going to war. ומלטוני מיד צר בכוח ובמלחמה, או הכי אמרתי הבו לי כסף כדי שמיד עריצים תפדוני.
Sorry.
Yeah.
He said was he talking about 22 and 23, those questions?
Yeah.
He says it makes it that they're going to go to war.
Well, the end of 22, he understands the words from your strength you bribed for me. He understands that to mean that they would have to go to war. That's how he understands the word strength there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's thanks.
Yeah. Umaltuni miyad tsar bekoach ubemilchama, or to save me from the hands of a tsar, a enemy. O hachi amarti havu li kesef kedei miyad aritzim tiftuni halo eini mevakesh michem davar. So again, same thing, money or money. Horuni leishiv al vikuchi ve'ani achrish velo etlanen od. So let me know, and I won't complain anymore. Aval lo kamo she'atem meshivim al tochachati lo chiach min hayisurim shabau alai ki chatati, but not telling me that I'm a sinner. Ki halo ze etzem havikuach שאני צועק שבאו עליי ייסורים בחינם, right? Isn't my whole complaint that no, it isn't. ואיך תביאו דראיה מן הדבר בעצמו, right? How are you going to say, you complained, so therefore you deserved it? שעליה אנו דנים ומתווכחים. This is what we're arguing about, whether or not I did something wrong. בהכרח אתם צריכים לברר מצד אחר שחטאתי. You have to give a reason other than the fact that I'm complaining that I did something wrong. וזה אני מבקש ואומר, מה שיגעתי הבינו לי. Tell me what my sin is. הודיעו לי מה היה השיגיון שלי. Tell me what my sin was. מה נמרצו, הנה התאמתות הדבר, יהיה אם אמיתתו מבוררים מצד עצם המושג בעצמו. But the truth of the matter is going to be understood from the matter itself. לא אם רוצה לברר הדבר מפני שכך נראה לו וכך נדמה בעיניו, right? Not that someone thinks that it might be like this or like that. שלא מפני שהוא מדמה כך יתברר שכן הוא האמת, right? That a person can't say that this is what the fact is because that's what would make sense to me. וזה שכתוב מה נמרצו ונתפרשו אמרי היושר, היינו אם היושר עצמו ידבר אמריו, רוצה לומר, אם המוכיח מברר ואומר הדבר מן היושר, כי ישים היושר לקו, והאמת למשקולת, ממנו ייקח ראיות, שאז הראיה מפורשת ומבוארת. If you're going to explain it, you have to explain it according to the truth of the matter that we're discussing. אבל מה יוכיח ויברר ההוכח והבירור, הבא מכם מצד עצם המשיג, שאתם הוכיחו שכן הוא מפני שכך נדמה לכם. You're telling me that this is how it is because that's what you imagine it to be. וממה שנדמה לכם תעשו הוויכוח ובירור ותביאו ראיה, זה לא יוכיח ויברר כלל. This doesn't clarify the matter at all. כי מי יאמר שהאמת עם דמיונכם? Why does the reality have to be according to what you think? להוכיח הכי מילים ודברים בעלמא להוכיח תחשבהו, right? Are words and ideas by themselves thought to be real disputation? וכי תחשבו שהיו יהיו ההוכחה ובירור למופת חותך, או יותר מזה הכי לרוח נבואה, right? That either you think that your explanation is itself a sign which proves, or that you're going to tell me that you got things from prophecy. Imre naush, the words of someone who has given up. Devarim shel yiush, hainu devarim shel ma bekach sheya'aleh hadimyon bechizyoני לילה. חשבת אתה אליפז שהוא רוח נבואה כמו שאמר ואלי דבר יגונב. That you said to me that this is something that was stolen, right? That this is something that was given to you, right? He's explaining why the word Imre Naush. רוצה לומר כי כבר ימצא לפעמים שמתווכח ישמש בראיות חלושים אם אין בידו מופתים אמיתיים. We see that people make weak arguments when they don't actually have a strong case. כדי שעל ידי כן ינצח את חברו בוויכוחו, that he wants to win the debate. אבל זה בוויכוח שבין אדם לחברו שלא יגיע ממנו נזק לחברו. but you only do that when it's not going to hurt the other person. Ava, hachi ra'ui shemilim lahavikuach techashvu af ba'et asher al yatom tapilu. But would you do such a thing even if it's going to hurt an orphan? Et havikuach hazeh lahashia al yado et hayatom she'ein lo ozer v'somech. Right, that you're going to say, it's your own fault. O ba'et asher al yedei havikuach hazeh tekaru shachat al re'echem, that you're going to dig a hole for your companion, l'chayavo al lo chamas bekapo, even though he has done nothing wrong, you're going to say he's guilty. Halo ba'et kazot ein ra'ui ledaver rak devarim berurim va'antim lo imrei niush v'divrei hevel. Right? You shouldn't just try to find a thing. You should actually try to understand and have the truth of the matter. Va'ata achar she'ani ha'etzem hanidon im ani tzadik im ani rasha כי בזה תלוי עיקר הוויכוח, אם נתייסרתי כדין או שלא כדין, אם כן הועילו והתחילו ופנו בי, לחפש אחר מעשיי אם נמצא. So if you're going to look towards me to see if I actually did something bad, בי שמץ דבר רע או אם לא, ואז על פניכם אם אכזב, and see if I lie to your face, and if you actually see it to yourself, because you saw that I did something wrong, to see that my righteousness was actually a lie. Like earlier we said, is not your fear, your foolishness. Because zot al tismechu al zeh rak shuvu na. Don't just depend on that, but turn around. La'ayen shenit v'lidrosh hetev, to actually pay attention and to seek truly. V'lo lismoch al ha'medumeh, and not just what you thought. V'az avatach ki al tehi ula avla, and then you will see that there will no longer be avla, how we translate it, discord. Shachar ha'iyun lo timtza'u bi shum avla, that afterwards you're not going to find that I am a bad person. V'achar kach shuvu od, and afterwards you're going to turn again. Lachzor la'ayin lachkor b'masai, and see what I have done. V'al tir'u ki od tzidki ba, and therefore you will see that I am still righteous. Ba'avlav hanizkar. Az tir'u shama shenidmeh lachem b'pam harishon. You'll see that what you thought in the beginning, mema shekarati tager al mishpatei Hashem shehu avla, lo dai she'eno avla, that it's not actually a sin. Ki od hi atzma ta'id al tzidki, that it itself actually is a witness to my righteousness. Shelo nimtza bi shum chet v'shenit yasarti bechinam, and that I was that I suffer for no good reason. Hayesh rotza lomar ma she'atem omrim shechatati ve'ani mekazev b'ma she'ani omer she'ani tzadik lo yihye rak be'echad mishnei panim, o shetamru she'ani yodea ha'emet she'ani eini tzadik it's one of two possibilities. Either I know that I'm actually a sinner, ואני מדבר שקר בעוולה, that I'm lying. נגד זה אמר היש בלשוני עוולה. That's why he says, does my tongue have עוולה, however we translated that, לדבר על השם טועה בדברי שקר, right? To lie, או שתאמרו שאני טועה בזה, מפני שאין בי דעת לידע את חטאי, or are you going to say that I just don't know my own sin, ולכן איני צדיק בעיניי לפי דמיוני ושכלתי, so I don't think I've done anything wrong. על זה אמר, and that's what he says, האם חכי לא יבין אבות, right? That is it that I don't understand the situation, לדעת מה שהוא אבות ועוון אשר חטא, that I don't know what is sin. Okay, 12:11. We did it.
That was awesome. Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you. Thanks for being there. It's
This is super
lonely
fun.
doing it all by myself.
I know. I was glad I was able to catch it. I can't catch them all, but catch whatever ones I can.
Is Wednesday better for you or Thursday?
Oh, this late at night, if I'm not working, then it doesn't work. So, because I'll just be at home with my family doing family stuff, unless I can convince them to watch.
How old are your kids?
13, 16, and 18.
Yeah, well, they're not that young. Wow, you have an 18-year-old? How old were you when you had your 18-year-old?
I was 26, 27.
I guess that's not so young. Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna turn. Let's see. I'm gonna turn 46 this year.
Yeah, you're almost my age. And you have an 18-year-old. What am I doing with my life? Oh, well.
I like how fast that went. What am I doing? Oh, well. All right. We're reading commentaries on the book of Job. That's what we're doing.
That is what we are doing. Okay.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Good night, dear sir.
Good night, sir.